بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Inshallah, today or tonight we'll be doing another of our webinars or seminars in the feminine journey. This week, or this month, sorry, we'll be focusing on the importance of picking good friends. And truth be told, this is a topic that requires a lot of attention, largely because a lot of the problems people might be facing, either in obtaining good friends or maintaining good friendships, are sources of the trouble or stress that people are feeling. And this is because friendship, good friends, are not something small in the religion of Islam. In fact, it's one of the greatest blessings a person could have in their life. And for those reasons, today we're focusing on just the idea and the importance of picking good friends. But a lot should be said about picking good friends, and finding them, fostering good friendships, maintaining those friendships. And that's obviously a discussion that can be done another time. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we hope to cover just briefly this topic, and hopefully later it can lead to more and more research or more and more benefits regarding it. To jump right in, plan, inshallah ta'ala, is to go over this list of topics or table of contents. Number one, the virtue of good friends in the Quran and Sunnah. Principles of friendship, right? So we're going to see a certain types of principles we should know. The dangers of befriending a bad friend, qualities of a bad friend, qualities of a good friend, and the practical steps in actually finding a good friend. And so I'll say at the moment now, inshallah ta'ala, time permits, we'll be able to do all of that. And later on, whatever is missing, because towards the end, I need to put more, some of the evidences. I ran out of time in terms of adding all that. It will be later on edited with the notes. So let's start off in the beginning, the virtue of good friendships and good friends in the Quran and Sunnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran, and this is specifically directed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but by extension towards us, that he should be content and he should keep company with good friends. And this is Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine, Allah says, "Wasbir nafsaka ma'al ladina yad'una rabbahum bil ghadati wal ashi yuriduna wajha." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "And keep yourself, O Muhammad, patiently with those who call on their Lord." I need you, your companions. These are His companions, morning and afternoon. They're glorifying Allah, invoking Him. ولا تعد عيناك عنهم تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا, and do not let your eyes overlook them, desiring the pomp and the glitter of this worldly life. ولا تطع من أغفلنا قلبه عن ذكرنا واتبع هواه وكان أمره فرطا, and do not and obey not, him whose heart we have made heedless of remembrance, and whose follows his lusts and his fears are in loss. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us two things, and this is for Rasulullah by extension ourselves. Number one, that we should be befriending Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, should be befriending his companions because they are piety and they're righteous. And they should not be trading in those great companions for anyone else who Allah describes as not remembering him. So the heedless of dhikrullah, they follow their desires and their affairs are all over the place. In reality, here, Shaykh Abdul Rahman bin Nasr Sa'di rahimahullah al-Tafsir, he says, he, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, describes them, the good friends, as worshipping him sincerely, which implies that one should keep company with good people and strive to make oneself content with their company and mix with them, even if they are poor, because there are many benefits in keeping in company with them. So we take the benefit that good friendship and good friends are people of piety, religiosity, people who remember Allah, people who fear him despite their social standing. And this is important because in today's society, people befriend based on other social markers, whether they be rich or famous, or have access to people who are rich or famous, or people who have other things, monetary benefits or worldly affairs. And this is important in Muslims, we don't do that. We look at the person's religions, we'll see that's one of the most important criteria of good friendship. So here, what is the ayah telling us? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is being instructed to keep the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum as his close companions. And of course, we know Allah chose Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And as Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu authentically said, Allah also chose the Sahaba to be with Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Allah guided him alayhi wasallam to this companionship and guided and handpicked and selected. If you want to use selected these people, right, to be his companions. So good friends then, and having them, and the virtue of them is so important, such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs his Prophet والسلام, to keep good companions and good friends. If that's something that is accepted and something we agree upon, then we continue by taking a look at the famous hadith we all know. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he tells us one of the golden principles in terms of having a good friend. He said in Hadith Abu Hurairah that the Prophet said, a man follows the religion of his friend, so each one should consider who he makes his friends. All right, so here that you should pay attention to the value of this hadith, because if people practice this hadith, they'll be able to discern good friendship from bad. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam telling us that al-mar'u, a person, or في الرواية الرجل على دين خليله, is upon the religion of his close friend. Khalil is a high level friend, very close, an intimate close friend, higher than a Siddiq, a regular friend. Is a Khalil, someone very, very close. And so we can see then proximity. The proximity, how close someone is to you, has great impact on you. But then he says, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ, so let every one of you see or consider man yukhalil, whom he takes as a friend. Al-Khattabi rahimahullah, Abu Sulayman al-Khattabi rahimahullah, he says in commentary on this hadith, its meaning is, do not befriend except a person whom you're pleased with the religion and honesty. So two things, right? Ad-deen wal amana. Take a look at a person's deen, his or her religiosity, wal amana, and their honesty. And then he says, for if you befriend him, and a person like this has good religion, good honesty, and good trust, he will guide you to his religion and his method. And this is the key. Ar-rajul ala deen khalilihi. Why the Prophet ﷺ started by mentioning a person follows the religion of his friend? Because whoever you befriend, you're going to take from them their religion and their ways, their madhab, their school thought, their worldview, whatever you want to take it as. So then he says, rahimahullah, do not jeopardize your religion and gamble yourself and befriend someone or gamble with yourself by befriending someone who you are not pleased with, their religion and their madhab. And this is one of the problems we find today. Yeah, people, when they befriend people, they don't really realize what they're saying about that friend. The person who you're taking as a friend is not only a testimony or an evidence as to who you really are, is also an indication of what you stand for. Because you can't, as we'll see the principles, mix two different ways and two different worldviews, two different objectives, two different commonalities of two different hobbies, don't really come together. So two different people who are opposite each other, they can have a relationship, but they can't be truly close friends, because what is it that they're going to be sharing one another? What is it they're going to be exchanging one another at that level? So whatever they have, this exchange. So if they have commonalities in their faith and their trustworthiness, that's the most important thing they're going to be transmitting to each other. Yes, two friends can be upon the same religion, same trustworthiness and character, have different hobbies and habits. But you see, when we make friendship just based on that, we keep forgetting that that's not the core of friendship. Right? Someone could like one flavor of ice cream, another one could have different flavors. Someone could like one sport, someone could like something else, someone like certain books, someone like something another type of books. That doesn't make our friendship. Our friendship is going to be deep at the core of who we are. And this is where you find people get it wrong, because we're making friendship sometimes at surface level, right? Surface level considerations. We're choosing things like, hey, we live in the same street, right? That's like a very superficial, right, kind of judgment. Or we know each other for years, yeah, but are we on the same religion, same honesty wavelength, or agreements on things like character and manner and worldview? It's very important. So here we learn the importance of a good friend, because that friend is going to keep you right on the same religion, the same way. So if you're hoping to go up in your faith, you need someone on the faith. If you're hoping to strengthen your good qualities, you need someone who shares those qualities. Another hadith, Abu Musa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu says, or narrates, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the example of a good pious companion And an evil one is that of a person carrying musk, another blowing a pair of bellows. We know this hadith, very famous hadith, about the good friend and the bad friend, the parable of the good friend and the bad friend. So Nabi Sallallahu gave the example of a good friend as one who's like a perfume seller or a carrier of musk. And we know the best percent is musk. And the one who's a bad friend is an ironsmith or a person who blows into iron and works in this kind of environment. The one who's carrying musk, who's a good friend, will either give you some perfume as a present, or you'll buy some from him, or you will get a good smell from him. But the one who's blowing a pair of bellows, he will either burn your clothes or he will give you a bad smell. So we look at the comparison. It's a very deep analogy. Scholars have written quite a bit on this. But just take a look at the very essence of it. The good friend has certain benefits they afford you, and the bad friend has certain harms that they afford you. The benefits of the good friend are in levels, the harms of the bad friend are in levels. Right? So إنما مثل الجليس الصالح والجليس السوء كحامل المسك ونافخ الكير. So just focus on the good doer now, because this is what we're focusing. Our lecture is about the good friend. The حامل المسك, the one who's carrying the perfume seller, or musk, the one who's carrying musk. إما أن يحذيك, either he's going to gift you something, وإما أن تبتاع من, or you will actually buy something from them, وإما أن تجد منه ريحا طيبة, at the very least you get a good scent from sitting with them. This hadith, the scholars explain, shows us the good friend benefits at many levels, not just one level, but many levels, from least to highest. So therefore, Sheikh As-Sa'di rahimahullah commenting on this in Bahjat al-Qulub Abrar, he says, for the good friend will either teach you what will benefit you in your religion or worldly life, give you advice, or warn you from doing what will harm you. So he encourages you upon obedience of Allah, to tie in kinship, clarifies your defects, invites you to moral character and its virtue through his speech, action, and situation. For verily mankind is made to follow his friend and companion. Nature and the souls are soldiers scripted. They guide one another to good or the opposite. So he uses as evidence to support this the hadith that the souls of the people are like soldiers which are inscripted. And this will come later, right? Because we're going to use this hadith Aisha to show that the importance of people having what's it called affinity as a way to determine good friendship. But so what he's trying to say here, because the nature of people and their souls, they get together and they get along with another, they will incline to one another, either in good or evil. So here we're going to see later that this will be one of the ways you can determine if someone's a good friend for you. Then he continues, the least a person benefits from a good companion, and is a benefit that should not be looked down upon, that a person will hold back from evil and disobedience of Allah on account of him in order to preserve the friendship. The lowest thing you get from that good friend is at least you don't do bad when you're in their company. And you can see now how good a good friend really is. That when you're in their company, you're not going to do trouble. You're not going to do haram. You're not going to do evil. And then on top of that, you may compete in good, because a good friend is going to encourage you upon good. Let the competitors compete, Allah says. So a good friend is going to compete with you for khairat, memorization of mutun or like religious texts, or going to the masjid, or seeing you at the masjid for the halaqah, or going to get something good, or to give charity to the poor. Or he says, look down on evil. It's going to make you hate and look down on evil. And a good friend will protect you in your presence and your absence. And that's the key. When you're in front of them and you're with them, they defend you against the backbiters and the people who try to slander you or physically harm you. And in your absence, they defend your honor. Because the mu'min, the believer, is the mir'ah to akhi mu'min. The believer, Prophet ﷺ said, is the mirror of his fellow believer. And this is key, right? When we talk about brotherhood and sisterhood, as we studied before, a good friend is like a mirror to you. And what does that mean? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave us a description. وَالْمُؤْمِنُ الْمُؤْمِنُ مِرَاءَةُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. The believer is the mirror. Abu Hurairah, the believer is the mirror of his fellow believer. And what does that mean? يَكُفُّ عَلَيْهِ ضَيَعَتُهُ. He will remove from him any kind of deficiency, or he will protect for him and his property and his things that he has with him. And here's the key: وَيُحُوطُهُ مِنْ وَرَائِهِ. And he will preserve him He will defend him or her when they're in their absence by preserving what? Their wealth, their honor, and their family. That's the key. So the Shaykh said, when you're absent, and that's important, a good friend, you're safe with them present and absent. As we see some people, and we don't have time to get into it, but I'll indicate it for those who want more. Go to the kitab, the book Morals and Behaviors, Sir wal Akhlaq, Akhlaq was Sir, the Morals and Character, Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi, rahimahullah. In there, he talks about the categories of people. I believe he categorizes people into 7. And he mentions some people, they praise you in front of you and they criticize you behind your back, and some people in your face and behind your back. And others, again, he puts people in categories. The good friend, and it's a very interesting quote because that's human nature it mentions. But here we're talking about good friend. In your presence to preserve you, in your absence, secure. You don't have to worry. And he will benefit you in his love and invoking for you and make dua for you in this life and hereafter and defending you through him, defending you through him, connecting with you and loving you, right? So again, the good friend has so much benefit. So Nabi Sallallahu categorized the good friend into these levels. Like at the very least, you're gonna buy something, you're gonna get a good scent. Maybe you're gonna buy something from him. You're gonna do some benefit from them. You're gonna learn something, or he's gonna give you a gift, right? So he could teach you something, or you learn, ask him something, or her something, or they teach you something, and again, all other good things that they come with. So again, the hadith and good friendship are many, but due to the time, inshallah ta'ala, will suffice with this much. And we can see in Islam, good friendship is a big deal. It's a big deal. And not to mention that Islam has much more on not only having good friends, but also qualifying these good friends, right? How do you know they're good friends? How do you maintain the good friendship once you found that good friend? So today we're only discussing the importance of a good friend and the methods to select that good friend. Then there's an entire, right, material on how to maintain those friendships. Because you can see, right, both problems, finding them good friends and keeping them. If we agree then that having good friends has so much benefit, we need to know some principles of friendship. There's some qawa'id with dawabit, right? Some principles. And this again, most of the work I'm benefiting from today, most of all of this lecture I'm presenting is taken from a book I will cite later at the end from Sheikh Faisal Hashidi, Hafizullah Ta'ala, from the Mashaykh of Yemen. That's an excellent book where he writes to his son, and again for youth, about how to pick or how to have a good friend. So almost all the material, most of it taken from there. I only added a few things here and there. Most of it's from him. And so he mentions these qawa'id, these principles. So the first one, friends influence one another. When you're talking about a friend, jalisu salih, wasahib salih, a good friend, just know, number one, whoever you're befriending, there's an athar. They're going to have a ta'thir wa athar on you. They're going to influence you. You influencing them influencing you. And if people just know this, they'll be a little bit more careful who they're going to allow to influence them. The first one, first hadith, Abu Hurairah reports, anhu, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the main source of disbelief is in the east, and pride and arrogance are characteristics of the owners of horses and camels. And those Bedouins who are busy with their camels and pay no attention to religion, while modesty and gentleness are the characteristics of owners of sheep. Here, Rasulullah said many benefits. One of them is that people who carry or who take care of horses and camels tend to be arrogant and proud. And those who take care of what? Sheep are modest and soft. What is that telling us? Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah in Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim, he says, rahimahullah, if a human interacts with a type of animal, right, they will gain some of its qualities. So like this, the arrogance and pride is found in the owners of camels, and tranquility and easiness is found in owners of sheep. Those that work with camels and mules have taken the blameworthy qualities of camels and mules. Likewise, those that work with dogs. So when you think about domesticators, those who tame animals, if they have to tame horses and camels and dogs all day, the dog trainers, they're going to become rough and wild like them. Because in order to tame one, you got to be one, right? And it's actually true. If you ever see how they work with these animals, it's very difficult. So he says the domesticated animals, now look, domesticated animals have some of the qualities of humans, from good treatment, affinity, and lack of aversion. So domesticated donkey versus a wild donkey, which is really a zebra, right? Or onger, whatever they call it, right? So I think more of a zebra, but imagine a wild donkey versus domesticated one. Domesticated dog versus the wild one. Domesticated cat versus a wild one. He says the one that's domesticated has the human qualities. And so similarity in external affairs leads to similarity in internal affairs by way of theft. I'm going to explain what he means by way of theft here and subtle progression. What that means then by way of theft It means by way of taking character. The nature of people is stripped away from others or stripped from others. Nature, the way it works, our nature and personalities, right, is taken from others. So literally, we borrow our character and our personality from sitting with others. So it's a type of theft, a kind of a stripping that's happening between you and someone else. Because nature, the way it is that when you mix with certain people, the nature of that person is naturally going to come to you. So what he's trying to say is that if you sit long enough with animals, forget about humans, then you're going to end up like them. If that's the reality, what about the human beings? What about human beings? And Munawi, look what he says, rahimahullah. Now, this is even better, interesting, more interesting quote compared to that one. Before continuing, hopefully we can see the parallel and another benefit, which is what? The Anbiya, all of them were shepherds. Now we know why. The ulama explain why Allah sent every prophet, Hadith Bukhari, every prophet was sent as a shepherd, because they need to learn or gain the modesty and gentleness to deal with the people, to do da'wah. See, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he was a shepherd, right? And always of sheep, right? And the reason scholars say, Ibn Hajar mentioned others, why? To get those skill set that's needed and the qualities needed to guide mankind. Because if you don't already know, dealing with human beings is more difficult than dealing with animals. The Imam Shafi'i mentioned that the management of human beings is more difficult than management of animals. Allahu Akbar. Again, these are very interesting insights. More interesting, Al-Munawi rahimahullah in Taysir Sharh Jami' Saghir, he commented and saying, befriending the righteous leads to success and salvation. Merely looking at the people of righteousness affects the righteous, and looking at an image will affect the character. Beliefs appropriate of the character of one viewing and his belief. Just like consistently looking at sad people will make a person sad, or looking at happy people will make you happy, or make a person happy. A wild camel becomes tamed if it spends time with tamed camels. So association has influence on animals rather upon plants and inanimate objects than their effect on human souls is more so. If animals, when they come together, share qualities, they transfer qualities to one another. If animals and plants, he says, animals and inanimate objects, they stay together for a long time. What about then if human beings? So now he said something so interesting. And this is Munawi, he says, for mankind, al-insan have only been called al-insan, al-insanan, because they're accustomed to what they see of good and harm. So what is this telling us? The first principle of friendship, that if the idea of the person's character will be influenced by who you befriend, because whoever you befriend or choose to befriend is going to influence you. Therefore, whoever you choose to allow to be a friend, close, far, whatever you want to call them, then just know that that person is going to have a share in influencing your character. So you have to then be conscious of who that's going to be. If animals can influence us, and we don't have even, because Shaykh Islam mentioned, rahimahullah, subtle progression. It's not always clear even how it's happening. It's happening slowly and surely. What about then if you befriend a wicked person? Right? You can't complain tomorrow that got some bad qualities, right? But imagine you befriend a righteous person, right? And inshallah ta'ala, you're going to have some of those good qualities. So if we take this benefit about human nature, Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah's statement, as well as the benefit that we get from Al-Munawi, we can learn now that human nature, the way it is that whoever we choose, and this is the key word, choose, to allow into our lives as friends, or whoever we just merely associate with, or whatever we merely associate with, then we're eventually going to have those qualities into us. So we need to be conscious not to allow bad friends to be influencing us, inshallah ta'ala. Continuing now. The next one, the principle, good and evil people don't mix. Now we know that they can, but they shouldn't. That's the key, they shouldn't. ودليل ذلك the qissa of the death, the wafat of Abu Talib. Right? So very important. Abu Talib, he was supposed to be, not supposed to be, he could have been potentially a Muslim had he continued to listen to his nephew Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because Abu Talib supported Islam heavily, financially and with his honor. But the last of his moments, he did not accept the truth his whole life. Al-Musayyib, Sa'id Musayyib's father reports, Abu Talib, when he was in his deathbed, the Prophet ﷺ went to him, with Abu Jahl was sitting beside him. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh, my uncle, say, none has the right to worship except for Allah, la ilaha illallah. And especially I will defend your case right, in front of Allah. Abu Jahl and Abu Abdullah ibn Umayyah said, "Oh, Abu Talib, will you leave the religion of Abu Abdul Muttalib?" So they kept on saying this to him. So the last statement he said before he died was, "I am on the religion of Abdul Muttalib." The Prophet ﷺ said, "I will keep on asking for Allah's forgiveness for you unless Allah forbidden me to do so." And the following verse came down. It's not befitting for the Prophet ﷺ and the believers to ask Allah's forgiveness for the pagans, even if they were near relatives, after it has become clear to them that they are dwells the hellfire. Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 113. Another verse came down, and you will not be able to guide whom you love, Muhammad brother guys whom you lost. This story, we hear it again and again, but we gotta really think. Abu Talib is at the throes of death. Here's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of the best friend possible, the best prophet, the best human being ever. And he has two of his close friends, two evil friends, one excellent friend and a nephew. He listened to his bad friends. He has two forces enacting on him. One is not good, one is very good. And he sided with the bad friends because those are his friends. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen took from this hadith, Sharh Ta'liqat al-Bukhari, in this hadith, it's evidence of a danger of bad companions. Because if it was not for these two men, it is possible Abu Talib would have inclined to the statement of the nephew of the Prophet. However, due to evil companions, he died in disbelief, and Allah refuge sought. All of them were evil, and therefore it's obligatory to be cautious of them. And so here, Shaykh Faisal Hachi derives the benefit to Salih and Talih, the righteous and the wicked. They don't mix. If you're a righteous person, you can't have bad friends because there's no way you can tell yourself I'm not being influenced by them. Two forces enacting on you will create dissonance and it will create the confusion we see nowadays. Many of our youth, they have good friends and bad friends. Some friends in school, some at home, some in the masjid, some over online. And we have to know friends have been complicated in today's time. Online friends, offline friends. Today, what we call the sahib al-sakit, the silent friend, sahib al-samit, one who's silent, online. That's an online friend. You watch them, they don't watch you. You follow their footsteps, they don't talk to you. And then you have a regular friend. Today, people are being corrupted in their own bedrooms by following people they don't even talk to. So imagine today we understand that there is no such gathering between the righteous and the wicked. It shouldn't be. Then you can't tell yourself I'm a righteous person. I have friends who are not righteous, except I'm trying to help them, and I actually am trying to be, and I'm doing work to guide them. Because friendship is more than what we're going to see later as things like acquaintances and neighbors, co-workers. These are different. We're talking friends, somebody who's in your inner circle you spend time with. So here's the next principle. This is the next principle here. We took, they're not supposed to mix. Because Abu Talib, despite Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being his nephew, his advisor, his friend, he listened to the wrong people. The third one, a righteous friend does not bring misery and problems. Third principle, righteous friends, if you befriend them, they only bring you khair. And look at the hadith, it's a long hadith, many of us we know, but we can summarize it. The hadith of it is when Allah sends the malaika, right, to go into the earth, to go and see the halaqat, the gatherings of dhikr and remembrance of Allah. And when they come to, they gather and they get closer and they go, right, pursuing them, and they go one above the other in their spreading their wings until they reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or reach, the heavens. And then Allah asks about them. This hadith, we know about it in the virtues of the gatherings of knowledge. Let's get to the bottom of the hadith, because this is a good friend. You see the friends today who tell us to come to the masjid, come to the lesson, come benefit. Look what the hadith is telling us. At the end of the hadith, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, then Allah says, I will make witness that I have forgiven them. Yani people who are gathering in this gathering. So when they're in that gathering, the angels are going to say about one of them. One of the angels will say, there's so and so amongst them. And he was not one of them. He just came in and for some need. So imagine that person who came to the righteous gathering, he's not even there to learn, right? He's just there for something else. And then what Allah say? These are those people, those companions will not be reduced to misery. Means even that person who just came for a need that day, he's also forgiven too. Because who are these people? These are the righteous people. If you accompany them, they will benefit you to that level that they will help you get forgiven, even if you're not there. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام هم جلساء قال الله عفوا Allah says هم الجلساء لا يشقى بهم جليسهم. Beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. These are our people who their gatherings and they're sitting with them. They will not, the one who sits with them will not be miserable. So here the scholars see the virtue of what? So much virtues in the hadith. One of them is the people and virtue. Their virtue extends to even the people who only came for, right, for other benefits, who are not like them necessarily in level, but they come and sit with them. If that's not enough of an encouragement to sit with a good friend, because if you go sit with a good friend, Allah may forgive them and you by extension. Then what is, right? What is really, right, like this? Compared to a bad friend, as we'll see in a second, the bad friend brings bad to you. So from this hadith, Shaykh Ibn Baz rahimahullah derived the benefit that the befriending of the righteous and the sitting in their company, min asbab al-afu al-musi al-muslim. It's from the causes of forgiveness for the bad or the sinful Muslim. Because they are a qawm of people, la yashqa bihim jalisu. That their gatherings, the people who choose to sit with them, they will not be reduced to misery. I think this is a sufficient benefit that everyone has righteous friends. Because even just imagine just sitting with them. And you're not even in the same, having the same intention in that moment. Imagine this person came for something else. He came for a need, but still he got the benefit. Imagine then how many people are in need of good friends, and all of us are essentially in need of it. And also the importance, also another benefit that us, if we are trying to be righteous people, that we make sure we have space for people like that in our gatherings. And our gatherings have openness to people to come meet and sit with us. Why? Because we hope people who gather with us, Allah will forgive us all. So that's very important. It's a beautiful hadith. In reality, it deserves a lot of attention. And not the opposite. An evil friend brings misery and problems. We learned this from experience, but now we're going to learn it contextually. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala said some Muslim people were with the pagans and were in their company, increasing their numbers against the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this has to do with, right, the time of Mecca. Sorry, not time of Mecca, time of so they were in the company of the Mushrikun. So they were in their company, and an arrow used to be shot, which would hit one of them, the company, the Muslims, the company of the pagans, and kill them, accidentally. So imagine a group of Muslims who they're in the company of the disbelievers, even though they're not disbelievers, therefore increasing their numbers, which is not correct, right? They shouldn't be doing that. But they did it anyways. And the Muslims accidentally, when they're shooting the arrows to hit the disbelievers, accidentally hit the Muslims. So Allah reveals then Surah Baqarah, ayah 97, right? Inna ladhina tawaffahum al-malaika. Right, those whom the angel take their lives when they're dead, and they're wronging themselves by staying with disbelievers. So people who remained amongst the disbelievers in Mecca didn't do the hijrah, even though they could have. Now those were exempted because Allah continues to accept for those who can't. What's the benefit behind this hadith? Hafid Nawawi rahimahullah, Shaykh al-Imam Hafid Nawawi rahimahullah says, in this hadith is the understanding of avoiding the people of oppression. Because if the non-Muslims were bad people and you were in their company and you have no choice, then you're excused. Because Allah says, except for those who can't leave and do hijrah, you're excused from being in their ranks. But imagine you're just there. And these are polytheists and you should be with the Muslims, especially at a time when hijrah was mandatory. Then it says the warning from not sitting alongside them and from sitting with the transgressors and the like of them from people of falsehood, so that what afflicts them, a punishment does not reach to him. In this hadith is also the benefit that whoever increases the ranks of a people, then their ruling will apply to him in terms of apparent punishments of world life. So the disbelievers who were being punished, because the Muslims fought against them, the Muslims who accidentally in their company also got killed too. Bad friends bring problems. And this is something to do with battle. Imagine today you hang around criminals, and when a robbery happens, when the theft happens, you're going to be part of it. Or you hang around people who backbite. If Allah chooses to punish, you'll be in it too. You're in it too because you're in that company. And this shows us that bad friends, there's no value in them, really. I know in our society, we tend to validate the bad friends because we see them to be cooler. It's from the signs of the day of judgment. That turfa'u al-ashrar, the wicked will be lifted, or tuda'u al-akhyar, and the righteous will be brought down in status. From the minor signs of the day of judgment, we're seeing it today. When we talk about celebrity culture, all the wicked, all the fusaq, up there in the sky, millions of followers. Salihu, nobody knows them. Signs of the judgment. We gotta be knowing this. But what's scary though, you might find somebody who, whatever reason, hangs on these people, in real life, they're not going to bring you any benefit. So that's another principle to deter us from being friends of a bad person. Because imagine a Muslim who's hanging around disbelievers and accidentally gets caught up in a battle and gets wounded, and the Muslims accidentally kill him just because he was in their company. With all this being said, we need to understand the dangers of befriending a bad friend. Right? There's a nice tafsir of these ayat in Surah Safat. I don't have time to go into it because I ran out of time to gather the benefit, but I'm gonna add it later. But I want to mention here the benefit that Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen derived from these ayat in Surah Safat, chapter 37, verse 50. It's supposed to be 51 to 60. I'm going to edit all that, right? So it's supposed to be 51, right, all the way down. So here Allah says in the Quran that in Jannah, the people of Jannah, when they're there, they're going to say, قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ. Then one of them, as they're speaking to one another, فَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. They'll be mutually questioning one another about the affairs of dunya. They're in Jannah now. So قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ, a speaker amongst them will say, إِنِّي كَانَ لِي قَرِينٌ. I used to have a companion in the world. Okay, who's his companion? Let's see. يَقُولُ أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ. He used to say, are you amongst those who believe in the resurrection? Right? Are you amongst those who believe in the resurrection? This is asking his friend. أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَإِنَّكَ لَمَدِينُونَ. And then he's asking him that when we die and become dust and bones, shall we be indeed raised to receive reward or punishment according to our deeds? So the man who's asking this question, where's that man? Where's that Qareen? I used to have that companion. So the man in Jannah is asking about the one who's asking these questions when in dunya. قال, it will be said to him, to that man, هل أنتم مطلعون? Have you looked down? فطلع فرآه في سواء الجحيم. So he looks down and he'll see the man in the midst of the hellfire. قال تالله إن كدت لتردين. He's going to say, by Allah, you have nearly ruined me. ولولا نعمة ربي. If it wasn't for the bounty and the grace of my Lord, لكنت من المحضرين. I would have been from the certain people, those amongst them brought to hellfire. What is the نعمة ربي here? Ibn Kathir, others, the Hafid Ibn Kathir, and others in the tafsir, they say, وَلَوْلَا نِعْمَةُ رَبِّي means the blessing of Islam. If it wasn't for the blessing of Islam, لَكُنْتُ مِنَ الْمُحْضَرِينَ. I would have been in Jahannam like this guy. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he derives from this many benefits. What's the qareen here? In Islam, or in Arabic, the word qareen can mean many things. So Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen mentioned that it's possible to mean more than one meaning. It could be a friend, could be a sharik, a business partner, could be a co-worker, he says, or a colleague. It's a very open-ended term. So he derives the name Sheikh. It probably most likely does not mean a close friend, because it's not allowed to befriend such people. This person has shak. This Qareen has doubts about Qiyamah. He's not a Muslim, but the man is a Muslim. Okay, I'm going to get to later about befriending disbelievers and the likes. Here, the man is a Muslim. His other friend is not Muslim. He's in Jannah enjoying it. Thinking about what happened to that guy. Looks down and there he is in Jannah. This is a reality many people are living today, which is what? If you have a friend who's not a Muslim or who is not upon good or is, whatever problems they have, do we want our friends to be with us in Jannah or not? Right? This is a question that we often have to ask. Right? Because if the answer is yes, then we need to make sure that they have the qualities that are going to get them there. If the answer is no, and if we're okay with this, that somebody's going to be your friend today and tomorrow you're not going to see them. I'm talking about Jannah. Then what kind of friendship really is that? The Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen then derives the benefit from this ayah. He derives the benefit that a person should be very careful about who he takes as a qareen or qurana, close friends. Because look at the conversation that is unfolding in the dunya. This was the case. The man almost got caught. The other guy who's in Jannah now almost got caught into this man's doubts. Allah saved him. Allahu Akbar. I think today is a very important message about good friendship, but also the fact that we should be, as Muslims, very careful about who we befriending. And I also want to bring to our attention the Muslims, we want to be with our friends in Jannah. We don't want to see our friends only in the dunya, right? Sometimes you notice that in non-Muslims in this culture, they talk about things like best friends forever. I don't think they really understand what that means, because they don't really stay too much as friends, right? It's kind of a cheap talk, To be best friends forever means you're going to be friends in dunya and akhirah, right? That's the best friend forever. Real best friend forever is someone who you're going to see them in the dunya and you're going to be friends with them in the akhirah. And that's only for the believers. قال الله تعالى في سورة الزخرف آية 67 الأخلاء يومئذ بعضهم لبعض عدو إلا المتقين. Friends on that day will be enemies to one another except the righteous. You see, best friends forever. That's the Muslim how he thinks. I'll be friends with someone so we're going to be together all the way. Inshallah in Jannah. Not I'll part ways in the dunya. But I يسأل حميم حميما, right? We're not asked about a friend يوم القيامة. We don't want to be friends today, enemies tomorrow. And this is the sad reality of today's Western culture because their concept of friendship is so shallow because we're making friends for benefits. We're making friends that we're talking big talk. But we know at the end of the day that most friendships they don't last that well because maybe they weren't rooted in the correct foundations. So remember this story because it's really interesting, but also a reminder of the importance of good friends. Because reality, look at this scenario, how sad it is. The end of it, one is in Jahannam, one is in Jannah. Here, some benefits the ulama they mention, especially the Kitab Adab al-Dunya wa Din of Mawardi, rahimahullah. He mentions the benefit here from the least harm an evil friend is that he's going to bring you bad friends, bad thoughts. So this is another thing about the bad friends that if you have that problem, right? Because really it's a problem, right? People have to understand why do people befriend bad people. The reason was because maybe they can't find too many good friends, but also because they might not understand the dangers of a bad friend. So he says here, a person, or the wise one, the Hukama said, a person will be thought of in accordance to what people think of his friends. So if you want to know, like one of the harms of befriending a bad person is that whatever people think about that person is going to be extended to you. He also says befriending evil people leads to bad thoughts of the righteous, or I should say righteous. I'm gonna fix that to the righteous. Befriending the evil people, right, is that one of the harms it leads to bad thoughts. سوء الظن بالأخيار. صحبة الأشرار, right? Just befriending bad people leads to سوء الظن بالأخيار. How? Because when you hang around the wicked people, what do you think about the righteous who are not your friends? You see, it's very important. Just like the righteous people don't think too good of the wicked. If you hang around the wicked and you're supposed to be from the righteous, are you going to think good about the righteous? You start changing your thoughts about them. So enough to be said about avoiding bad friends, which lead us then to conversation. What are these qualities of a bad friend? So we can see what a good friend will look like as the opposite of that, and also some practical steps in obtaining those good friends, right? So the qualities of a bad friend, and I spend more time on this, truth be told, inshallah, and after I'm going to add all the footnotes for the good friends. But a lot of the qualities of the good friend is whatever the bad friend doesn't have. In many ways, that's how you can learn. But also there are some specific qualities that good friends should have. Let's begin with disbelief. This is the qualities of bad friends, that they have kufr with them. Now someone will say, what does that mean? Can we befriend a non-Muslim? So we have to be careful the language you're using. If you're saying befriending like a friend, then friendship is different than acquaintance. Classmates, sure. Colleague, sure. Neighbor, sure. You can make all those levels. When it comes to friendship, it's a step beyond. This is where you have somebody who you're talking to about your private life. You're talking about your secrets. You're sharing dreams and you're working together for something bigger. In this case, akhirah. How can it be disbelieving a friend on that level of friendship? You see, if you look carefully, anyone who's friendship with disbeliever is never going to be that deep. So if you say acquaintances, well, I know of them, we go to work together, we study together, that's different. We're talking about friends. When you call them for advice, I have a problem in life, I run towards them. How this is something that should be reserved for the believer because of the hadith of Sa'id al-Khudri, where radiallahu anhu, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not accompany except the believer. لا تصاحب إلا مؤمنا, and do not serve if you except to a taqi. And this last part is very interesting. لا تصاحب إلا مؤمنا ولا يأكل طعامك إلا تقي. That's the first part of the hadith. Then the commenters of the hadith, the ulama, like Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Barakfuri, rahimahullah, Tuhfat al-Ahwadi, he says that is completely iman. So one interpretation, لا تصاحب إلا مؤمنا, يعني مؤمن كاملا, كامل الإيمان, right? Or مكملا, يعني complete or completed. But it could also, we said, mean the intent is a prohibition of accompanying disbelievers and hypocrites, because accompanying them is harmful to your religion. Now we got to go back to the hadith. الرجل على دين خليله. A man is upon the religion of his friend. If a disbeliever is not upon your same religion, can they be a friend, or can they be an acquaintance, or should they be an acquaintance or something other relationship? You see, today we've mixed up these things, some people, without realizing what a friend really means. Because if you go to the books of akhlaq or adab, what they talk about the conditions of a friend is way higher than what most of us may understand a friend is. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is telling us, alayhi salatu wasalam. So the second interpretation is a disbeliever, hypocrite should not be your friend, like a friend versus other things, because what the hadith is saying, then mu'min means here min jins al-mu'minin. So befriend somebody who is a believer or Muslim. And this makes sense because even disbelievers and Muslims are on the same page when it comes to hobbies. We don't drink, they drink. We don't eat pork, they eat pork. Okay, you can sidestep those things. But what we're going to do after Jum'ah Friday nights? You might go and want to go to the masjid. You want to go eat some halal food. You want to go to the club. How can we, be on the same page? لكم دينكم ولي دين. You have your religion, I have my way. قل كل يعمل على شاكلته. Everyone acts according to his intentions and his worldview. Today, I think this part we have to explain, especially to our younger brothers and sisters, young guys, right, who are still in, high school and university, about the importance of a friend, the meaning of one. Because true friendship, we just said, is based on taqwa. So if a bad friend has disbelief, a good friend should have iman or Islam. And this is important because, yes, you could tell me I have a coworker as a friend and stuff. But when it comes to like friendship, you have to think carefully. What does that even mean? And that's why Al-Munawi, rahimahullah, he writes in Faisal bin Abdul, لأن الطباع سراقة, because the nature of a people, سراقة, if it steals or it's prone to stealing from others. And your nature will steal from someone else's nature. And we already covered that point. So if I hang around this believer, I might get kufr or shirk. I might get doubts about my deen. And the story I just mentioned to you just a moment ago may come to play. The second one, in ignobility. So it can be somebody who is ignoble, yani lowly, or la'im. That's what it is. He has lom or la'im. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said the believer is simple and generous, the wicked is deceitful and ignoble. So ignoble just means a lowly, right? It's not a person who has good standing. It's not a person who's considered honorable. And this is the description of the la'im, is the description of the disbeliever. So if the Muslim should be, right, befriending people who are kareem, generous, but also people who are not la'im, and ignoble and lowly, because that will also again go to your character, because those qualities are not good. So the wording is al-fajr. So fajr can be wicked, right? Khabbun la'im, as scholars say, khab means is prone to like corruption. Wal la'im dani khulq or khalq. Sorry, khulq afwan. Low character and morals, right, and manners. So that's number two. We've got to pick people of good qualities, because whoever you befriend, you're going to become like. Number three, does not pray salah. That's a bad quality of a friend. Right? Because if you're not praying salah, you're not praying salah. And if you're praying salah, inshallah, they're praying salah. So it makes sense that you pick people who pray salah, because that's what we're supposed to do. We don't want to befriend people who help us miss salah, not help us pray salah. And it's interesting is that if you hang around people who have the qualities above, first of all, they're probably not praying salah either. Not to mention, Allah talks about in the end of times, the emergence of people who will follow the desires and they're not going to pray the salah. That's the scary part, right? It's going to happen, and it's already happening, right? The people are like this. فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ, after the generation of the righteous, Allah says, وَكَمْ خَلْفُنَا, a generation, أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ, they will waste away the prayers, وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتَ, and they follow the desires, فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا, right? So then Allah says these people will certainly be punished with a specific punishment, right? In the hellfire. Chapter 19, Surah Maryam, ayah 59. So we have to be people who pray. And this is also a secret. If you want to pray more on time, hang around the people who pray. It's easy then. Number four, desires only the worldly life. You don't want someone to be a friend who's only worried about money, dunya, possessions. You want someone who cares about the akhirah, because that's the real life. That's what we're trying to aspire to. And you notice is that whoever you hang around with, the first thing you're going to notice is a shared common worldview. If you're trying to seek knowledge, find people who are doing that. But if you hang around people who are looking for just the dunya, you're gonna get the same kind of aspirations because that's what you're both looking for, what is they're looking for, and you might also be looking for it too. Allah says to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْ مَنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. Withdraw, therefore withdraw Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from him who turns away from our remembrance. And what else is described with? وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا حَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Right? And this person only desires the world life. And this is very important, sad to say. Many people's criteria of a good friend is this. He has money, he has car, he has house, vacation. Doesn't mean much, right? Because what was the Prophet say again? Be right, a person upon the religion. Didn't say the person upon the worldly life of a person. Why? Because I could be rich, you could be poor. You could be poor, someone else could be rich, and you still can be friends. How? Because you have something else in common. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was told to keep with the righteous despite their poverty. Next, you don't want to befriend someone backbites and gossips. And this is sad. Because if you befriend someone like that, you're going to be in for trouble. Allah already tells, woe to every slander and backbiter. Right? Those people who Allah says in Surah Qalam, who are just running and walking, right, away to others with and spreading the what's it called, the namim, right, the binamim, yani they're running with gossip. Hammazim masha'im binamim. So if you understand this, Imam Shafi'i said something so wise. He says, rahimahullah, whoever gossips for you will gossip against you. Someone who tells you stories of others got stories about you for others, right? And this is so interesting because, have you noticed that? And it's always true. The person who's closest to you, they're the ones, right, who are always going to be doing the backbiting and the tail carrying. Not the person who doesn't know you. The person who knows you is going to be telling other people all about you. And it's scary because sometimes we think we know our friends, but we always wonder who's leaking this information. Who's telling other people about my secrets? And you find out later, wait a minute, it's the person I keep telling them to, right? No one else knows it. It's not like you're being hacked. It's this person right next to me. I'm telling them everything. So the ulama mentioned this point, Shafi'i said, is very powerful. Truth be told, this quote should go over here. So I'm going to go over here and come back here. Envious. That's another quality of a bad friend. Allah says, and from the evil of the envier, who's the one who has the envy for you? Who envies you the most is your friend. Ibn Hibban writes in Uqala, jealousy mostly occurs between peers or people of the same race or social status. A man doesn't attain any kind of position or status in this world except that he will encounter someone who hates him for it or jealous of him because of it. So a man should be cautious of those who are the same race, his peers, his neighbors, and his cousins, he says. Imagine his cousins. And someone will say, why? Why are the people closest to you? Because they know what you got. Strangers can't see unless you show them. And they go back to the story of Qissa to Yusuf alayhi salam. Him and his brothers were jealous of him. And Imam Sa'di in his tafsir, he draws from this the benefit that brothers and family, they're the ones who are usually envious. SubhanAllah, what about their friend? So why is it important to know? If you are befriending someone, befriend people who are not jealous. And if they have jealousy, because we're all human beings, at least they're not going to show it or demonstrate it. But today, sadly, sometimes you befriend people and you think they're mean well, right? And they try to hopefully they're out there good, meaning good for you and trying to help you, but they might just be spying on you, right? Or not really the kindness of people. Right, the next one, two-faced. Abu Hurairah reports, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the worst person is someone who's two-faced. He's a person who comes to one group of people with one face, another group of people with another face. So two-faced is very bad. You need someone who's straightforward, who's straight, who's always going to be the same. He's going to be good to you, good to others. The way they are to you is way to others. Do not have ulterior motives, a second life, or like a second ulterior, like personality. Also, some of the ulama mentioned with that is talawun. Someone's constantly changing their morals and their habits and their behavior and their self. So that's not good. Even people are truthful, honest. Also, a liar. Right? You cannot befriend a liar. Right? Ibn Mas'ud mentioned Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told truth leads to piety and piety leads to Jannah. We already know this. Right? البر يهدي إلى Jannah. صدق يهدي إلى البر وبر يهدي إلى Jannah. But then what about the person who's a liar? A person will keep lying until they get to Jannah. But Allah doesn't guide this person. This is the thing about liars. Allah doesn't guide the person who lies. because that person is missing the qualities and ingredients of guidance, which is truthfulness. So if your friend is a liar, you caught them lying a lot, that's a sign it's not a good friend. We should find someone who is better than that. And also we have to know that a person who lies cannot even have friends. And should be told. And this beautiful quote, one of the wise people have said, as mentioned by in Adab al-Dunya wa Deen of Imam or the author al-Mawardi al-Shafi'i. He mentions that whoever lacks in truthfulness lacks in friends. Right? So man qalla sidquhu qalla sidiquhu. Right? Whoever is less or has lacks in the truthfulness and honesty lacks in friends. And it's true. Who wants to befriend a liar? So these are some of the qualities of a bad friend, and obviously each one of them results in the qualities of a good friend. A good friend doesn't backbite. A good friend doesn't gossip. A good friend has taqwa. Good friend is not envious. Good friend doesn't lie. A good friend is praying. They have good akhlaq, and it's important to have these kinds of standards. Of course, it goes even further than that, because the scholars say that if you want to even know someone has these qualities, and that leads to a question that someone might be asking or thinking about: how do you even know a person's qualities, right? How would you know, for example, a person even has these qualities? And that leads to a principle of testing. You have to test your friends. For friendship is not shown initially. It's not shown initially. Friendship is learned through over time. Over time. It's possible you may know somebody for a long time and only then you reveal the character. Allahu Akbar. And sometimes in our society, we have what we call liquid friendships. We tend to feel that we know people very well, but we don't, right? Because people can put on a nice show. So some of the ulama say if you want to know somebody, you got to test them, and it's going to take you a long time to really know is this person who they are. To give you that, again, in Adab al-Dunya wa Deen, Mawardi, he mentions a very nice statement, a nice saying, where some of the hukama, the wise people have said, Asbir tukhbar. Right? Asbir tukhbar, which means examine and it will be reported, it will be revealed. Examine, يعني friends. Look, he says, look at this quote now again. Faisal Hashili, Habibullah Ta'ala, he cites this statement. He says, أما وردي فإذا عزم على استيفاء الإخوان, if you want to befriend somebody, again, this is from the principles. سبر أحوالهم قبل إخائهم, test their affairs before you befriend them. This stuff that we're talking about here, this is page 165. This is long gone. This practice is talking about, because we live in the era of follow back, tag me, right? This culture, right? Give me, on a social media, I know him. No, you don't know them, right? Because if you didn't test, you didn't get. So what is he saying? If you want to befriend someone, take them as a friend, a brother, a sister, what do you gotta do? You gotta test them. Then he says, وَكَشَفَ عَنْ أَخْلَاقِهِمْ, you got to uncover and discover their character and their characteristics and the manners قبل استيفائهم, before you take them into as a friend. And then he says, إنما تقدم من قول الحكماء, for verily the wise have already said and has been mentioned, أسبر تخبر, test and examine, you will be revealed or reported. So what is beneficial about this is that that's one way you can tell if somebody has these qualities or not. You examine, for example, does this person lie to anybody? Who knows about them? Because again, we all know people from mutual friends. So we can look and we can see when we hear, oh, this person, mashallah, they pray salah, they don't lie, people are saying good things about them. I need to be friends with this person, right? That's how we're supposed to do it, not how really it happens, right? You meet somebody, you're walking with them, they come with you, they walk with you, they sit with you, and next thing you know, you became friends. And then you find out this person is not good. So may Allah give us tawfiq to be able to do it better. To finish, some qualities of good friends. Again, I'm going to fill in these blanks later, inshallah ta'ala. But some of them are given. The first one, intelligence. A good friend is intelligent. Ibn Hibban, he writes in Road to Uqala, that which increases an intelligent person intelligence is drawing near to those of his type and staying far away from those who are opposite of him. If you want to be with people who are intelligent, stay with intelligent. If you are intelligent, befriend the intelligent. You need people who are intelligent. Aqil now, intelligent doesn't mean good at math. It means they use their mind to do good and stay away from evil. An aqil is a person who knows the end results or outcomes of bad things, so they avoid it, and the results of good things, so they do it. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah says an intelligent person is the one who knows good and does it, and knows bad and avoided. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. If only, the people of Jahannam, hellfire will say, if only we used our intellect and listened, right, to the revelation and followed the use our intellect, we'll not be having the Ashab al-Jahim. So when we say intelligent, we're not talking about the people who got lots of degrees. The person you sit with, they give you good advice, they do righteous things, they make good decisions. That's a good friend. That's a person you want to be with. Taqwa, like, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha. All you believe, fear Allah, wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen, and be with those who are truthful, those who are pious, right? So taqwa is very important, right? The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned one hadith, my awliya, my allies, or the muttaqun, the pious. So it goes without saying, good religion, we've already taken it. Hadith, Abu Huraira, check their deen. How about good aqidah? That's very important. Person of innovation. It can be a regular Muslim, a lay Muslim. You're trying to help them. But when it comes to a friend, you want to pick someone whose aqidah is good. Lay people, they're miskeen, they don't have much knowledge. So yes, their aqidah is still upon the fitrah, so you can guide them. But someone who's upon some serious misguidance or something dodgy, you don't want to be friends with them because as-sahibu sahib, the one who you befriend will pull you towards them. All right? Man jalasa janasa. And whoever you sit with, you imitate. Right? So these are statements that ulama they mentioned to remind us you sit with Ahlul Bid'ah, someone who clearly is misguided, not somebody who's ignorant, somebody who they know what's going on, they have knowledge, they've been told before, and they just do innovations, and the religion is not good. That's dangerous because the most important thing a good friend has to do is save you from Jahannam. And we know that misguidance, innovation is not good. So the ulama mentioned good aqidah. Haba comes from a good background. Sheikh Faisal Hashi mentioned hasab, somebody's standing, a social background, or their family background. It plays a role who they are. Ibn Jawzi has a very interesting speech in his Sayyid Khatir, the capture thoughts English translation here. A person must investigate the background of those he tends to befriend, he says, accompany, marry, or give in marriage. He must then study a person's appearances because a good appearance indicates a good heart. That was a classical, kind of like thought process. And again, it's a type of science of the face, the relationship between the face and the heart, right? The piety in the face and the wickedness in the face. And again, also other traditions have this kind of science. Then he says people always revert back to the origins. Very interesting. How many times do you ever think about that person's upbringing? This is what we're saying today. Somebody's upbringing, somebody's psychological state, it does have a big impact on who they are. Some people, they come from very difficult circumstances. Some qualities they may have, it's just how they are. They can't really get out of some of those things because they went through a lot. It doesn't mean they could be bad friends. It just means you got to know this. Then he says someone who has a bad upbringing and foundation really have good quality. Again, that's very harsh statement, right? And a beautiful woman comes from a bad home will not be decent. Again, he's talking in generalities. The same applies to a friend and a companion. Therefore, always befriend a person who has a good foundation and whom will always be worried about being humiliated, right? And that goes back to the idea of khawar muru'ah. You're afraid of people criticizing the things that you do, so you have consciousness. Accompanying such a good person will always be safe with rare exceptions. And that's something interesting, right? Again, in today's time, right, it's something to add to our list of good qualities, right? Someone's background, where they come from, how did they grow up, who they are, right, what circumstances. Because they might tell us a lot about who they are, who they can be, but that doesn't mean someone is boxed in or like limited to that, right? The last ones, right, inshallah, later I'll fill it in. Humility, modesty, right? To be modest, has good character, dutifulness to parents, praise salah, all the good things you can imagine, right? So whatever the bad qualities, the opposite of those, although are good qualities, and additional good qualities, and there's more. To finish today's lecture, what are some practical steps that we can take to find a good friends? And inshallah, I'm just gonna list them, and I'm gonna later on put all the evidences. But let's talk about them one by one. Number one, making dua. You see, a lot of times we know that when we're looking for anything in life, you should make dua. But one of the things that we know in the Sharia comes with is dua for a good friend. Right? In the Sharia, we have a dua for good friends. Imagine that's Islam. That's our deen. Not other religions. Other religions, I don't know what they got on this. But Islam, we got du'as for everything. Even good friends. So I'm going to mention now two examples how the Sahaba and Salaf did it. And I want you to think about this, especially when you want to find good friends or you just started recently practicing or someone reverted to Islam or something like this. It's one of the most important steps. Ask Allah. Or you move to a new society, a new city, ask Allah to be good friends. Ask Allah. So the first one, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, one of the du'as he used to make uh, throughout the day, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min yawmi su'i. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from a bad day. And again, this is translated on the TorontoDawah. You can find this dua. It's called the dua against a bad day. This is our religion, guys. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min yawmi su'i. Oh Allah, save us from a bad day. All right, from a bad day. ومن ليلة السوء, from a bad night. ومن ساعة السوء, from a bad hour. ومن صاحب السوء, from a bad companion. ومن جار السوء في دار المقام, and a bad friend in the our neighbor in the city or the hereafter. So this hadith, scholars they say what it's talking about is about all the bad things a person could have, like a bad day, a day that has lots of wickedness and evil. But I'm interested in the one that says, the part that says, ومن صاحب السوء. Right? I seek refuge in you from a bad friend. So dua number one is seek refuge in Allah from a bad friend. Now, how about asking Allah for a good friend? Well, we're gonna see here. All right, so this hadith I just mentioned, the hadith is sahih. Shaykh Albani authenticated in the Silsila Hadith Sahiha, number 1443. And also Shaykh Muhammad Adam Ethiopia, rahimahullah, in his Sharh Sunan Nasai, he mentions it. And also he mentioned that it has origin that it's also it's sahih, right, with also other supports. طيب, how about the dua for good friend? Now the Salaf, pious predecessors. One day, Alqam ibn Qais, rahimahullah, he said, I came to Sham, فصليت ركعتين, I prayed into the masjid, I prayed 2 rak'ahs. And I said, I made dua, Allahumma yassir li jalisan saliha. I made dua, oh Allah, give me a good companion. And then he said, when I made that dua, look at this dua he's making. So first he enters the masjid, he prays 2 rak'ahs. Okay, then after he finished praying 2 rak'ahs, he makes dua to Allah. Oh Allah, grant me a good friend. Right? So and this is important because he's in a city that's not from. Allahumma yassir li jalisan salihan. He says, when I finished saying that, فرأيت شيخا مقبلا, I met a man who was facing me and coming towards me, and I sat down with him and I was told this Abu Darda, radiallahu anhu. Allahu Akbar, right? He asked Allah and he got to meet Abu Darda, the faqih, right? The Qari al-Quran and the Imam of Sham sent by Umar to teach the Quran. Hadith Bukhari, hadith, let's see the number here, the hadith number. It's in Bukhari Muslim, hadith number 3761. Now, this is a powerful dua, right? Next example, same dua for Sunan Tirmidhi. Harith bin Qabisa, he says, I entered Medina. Again, so I'm going to put this in the notes later, all these du'as, right? And I want us to think about this, right? So he goes in there, and Harith bin Qabisa says, I entered Medina, and I said, Allahumma yassir li jalisan salihan. Same dua. Oh Allah, grant me a good friend, a good companion. What happens? فجلست إلى أبو هريرة. I found Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه. I think this is becoming a pattern, right? You finish the dua and you find a Sahabi. Okay, it's not going to happen like that nowadays, but inshallah, you're going to find a righteous person. That's in Surah Tirmidhi, okay? He says, Allahumma yassir li jalisan salihan. Who does he mean? Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه. Third example, Khaytham bin Abi Sabra. He said, I came to Medina and I said, Allahumma, or Allah, فسألت عفوا, I said, فسألت الله أن ييسر لي جليسا صالحا. I asked Allah to give me a good friend. So I also found Abu Hurairah. All of this showing us the Salaf, they used to make dua for a good friend. Where today we might not know this, so we have to try to bring this not only to ourselves but others. That's practical step number one. Seek refuge in Allah from a bad friend. Ask Allah for a good friend. Someone said, Haba Allahumma inni as'aluka hubbaka wa hubba man yuhibbuk. That's a good dua in general to ask Allah for hubb, but these are more specific So actually, these are the du'as for good friends, literally. And each one of them worked. Number one, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam seeking refuge from a bad friend, and two of the Imams set up using the same wording and getting righteous friends. So of course, right, to use those is better. And again, and you can also just generally make dua, right? Any dua you want, but these are mansus, these are reported. So I'm going to put that in the notes. طيب. All right, someone already shared one here. There's over here. Yes. Next, go to the places where people are found, or good people are found. If you want to find good friends, you're not going to find them in the nightclub, in the back alleys, in the wrong place. You're going to find them usually in the masajid, in the markets, or sorry, the masajid, the places of prayer, the halaqat al-ilm, the places where lectures are being given, the masjid. You're going to find them in Umrah, if you go to Umrah Hajj. You're going to find them in Jalis al-Ulama or Sarihun. You're going to find them in the houses of the righteous. You're going to find them in gatherings of the righteous. Today, what's happening, people are looking for good friends online. Online is difficult. You may find a good friend, but the best places are where the people of taqwa usually are. And I'm saying this because if you think about the last narration I mentioned, where did he go? He said he prayed 2 rak'ahs, then he made his dua and he found him. So it could be that he was inside the masjid when he found him, Abu Darda, or it could have been that he prayed. Well, actually, he is, because he says he went to the masjid, masjid. So clearly he went to the masjid and he found him. That's a clear indication. Go to the places, right, of iman and taqwa, right? And I think one of the things that we find today that's useful, that if you go to these places, you're easily going to find someone like-minded. So another benefit is that just like iman, righteousness, which is a good quality for a friend, and taqwa is also, right, righteous is quality of a good friend. These two will be found in the places of there. So look at this narration. Mu'adh bin Jabal, before he died, they came to him to ask him about where should we seek knowledge. So his students came to him, and Mu'adh was about to die. This hadith Sahih, Tirmidhi, and also other Shaykh Muqbil also authenticates this hadith. They asked him, where should we find, or who should we seek knowledge after you, Mu'adh? Because Mu'adh is considered a great Imam. Rasul said he's from the leaders of ulama Yawm al-Qiyamah. So he told them about seeking knowledge from Abu Darda, Salman Farisi, Ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Salam, anhum. But what he said in the beginning, I want you to think about this. إن العلم والإيمان مكانهما من ابتغاهما وجدهما. Verily, iman, faith, and sorry, knowledge. إن العلم, very knowledge, والإيمان, and faith, have their places. Whomsoever searches for both of them in their places will find them. So where do you find iman and knowledge? The study circles, the masajid. That's where you're going to find the good friends as well. So if a pious person will be found in a place of piety, وَخَيْرُ أَرْضِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, or خَيْرُ بُقَاعِ إِلى اللَّهِ مَسَاجِدُهَا, or خَيْرُ أَرْضِ or خَيْرُ الْبِلَادِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مَسَاجِدُهَا. The best place inside of Allah, Muslim, is the masajid. Go there. Find the study circles of people, my sisters on, for example, people today find friends online, no problem. Follow the good Telegram channels, find the good WhatsApp groups, meet up with them. Here we are in tonight studying. These are people, there are lots of sisters here you can meet. That's another one. Look in the prompt. Today, sometimes you are looking around in the place, we might not find good friends. Just like today, if a non-Muslim or someone who's not practicing looking for friends to hang out with, they might go to the gym, go to the movies or the mall. They're going to find who they're looking for, right? Number 3, the principle of affinity. Sheikh Faisal Hashidi, he mentions this interesting principle, right, which is a step above what we just mentioned today, which has to do with, if you want to know if somebody's a good friend, you're gonna check, number 1, right, their what's it called, their skills, or sorry, the qualities that we mentioned above. And there's also the last step, which is affinity. How does your nafs, your soul, feel about this person? And what it means by this is that we said before, the hadith of Aisha, that everybody's going to, the souls are like soldiers which are enumerated or inscripted. If this is the case, when you find someone who you think is a friend, you gotta be careful. It's not just, oh, they pray and they fast and everything. Okay, they're pious. Me and them, do we click? Do we get along? If yes, all right. because righteous people like righteous people. They get along easily. And bad souls get along with bad souls. So Sheikh Faisal Hashi says, Al-Ulfa قاعدة ذهبية في معرفة الصاحب. It is the golden principle of knowing a friend. I'm going to finish with this last point in the next one. So the hadith Aisha, الأرواح جنود مجندة, that the souls are soldiers inscripted. The hadith has many meanings. What it means is that the people of piety find just a bit, people of piety find comfort and familiarity with people of the souls of the pious people. When pious people meet each other, they get along. And sometimes people who you have shared commonalities with, but just something about them, you like them. You first time you meet them, that's it. That's a person who you want to befriend. So it doesn't just mean the person has all the qualities. You also like them. Some people are righteous, but I don't get along with them. We just don't click. We're on the same page. We're not the same personality. That's okay, because a person can be a pious brother and sister in faith. Doesn't have to always be your friend. I know sometimes we got a problem with that one, right? Sometimes like we think everyone has to be your friend. No, everyone can be your brother, everyone can be your sister, but they can't all everyone can be your friend necessarily. Here's the point now. If this is for the righteous, I see you have good qualities. We get along. We have affinity. See, you have to look at this carefully. That's why you find some people when they meet, some friends, they can't be separated. Just so it's so easy for them to get along. Now here's another thing. What about if you find affinity with the wicked people? That's a sign that you need to correct yourself. Shaykh Faisal Hashi mentioned, Ibn Jawzi says something interesting, as Ibn Hajar mentioned Fath al-Bari, that if you found yourself, a person if you found themselves, a righteous person, or a Muslim, being detested or finding aversion towards righteous people, or finding affinity towards the wicked people, then that is something owing to some kind of corruption in your own self. So you need to hasten to get rid of that out of your heart. So, for example, if I sit down with the righteous, I don't like them. Sit down with the wicked, I'm feeling comfort. Something wrong with my nafs. I gotta fix it. And that's also what you find. The righteous people, when they sit down with the righteous, they feel raha, comfort. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, when you sit with them, the people of piety and taqwa, people of Sunnah, as Shaykh Muqbil used to say, removes many right anxieties, worries, right? Just sitting with the people of Sunnah removes worries, anxieties. And it's true. But imagine you sat down with people who are not so pious. You don't feel comfortable. You feel all the time like something off. I don't want to be here. I don't feel comfortable. And that's a good sign, because you're not the same, right? You're not on the same level. So that's another principle you can use to help figure out if someone's a good brother, a good sister, for example, sister to sister, someone you like as a friend, or someone is a good sister I meet in the masjid, but we're not necessarily friends. Because not everyone has to be a friend. Everyone is your sister. Different. So we talked about 4 levels. The last one is patience. You don't have to rush to get friends. You're gonna find them. Allah's gonna bring them your way. You take the right steps, you're gonna find them. But sometimes, out of fear of loneliness, sometimes we try to befriend some people, right? Because we don't want to be alone, human nature, right? So we befriend people who are not good. Later on, we're gonna realize, oh, this person is so much hard in my life. That's a problem. Be patient, right? And some scholars even go so far to just talk about, if I can't find a good friend, should I just stay alone? Yeah, some scholars say that if someone can't find, say bad friends, right? You got to be more patient with being alone than being bad friends, because bad friends can bring more harm. But in reality, there's nobody who can't find a good friend if Allah gives them tawfiq and they make dua and they look far and wide. And they also remember that the idea behind finding a good friend is more than just I'm gonna befriend somebody. Have again testing them, seeing them, because friendship can make or break. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll end with this much. May Allah give us tawfiq. On a topic like this obviously requires much more much more time. Here's the book I was citing from mostly today. رسالة إلى ولدي من تصاحب. This is by Shaykh Faisal Hashid Rahimahullah Ta'ala. Fantastic book, right? There's a lot of benefits, if not everything I mentioned. Most of what I mentioned is from here. So you can return back to that. It's not only Arabic, but the notes that I shared today, I'm gonna just summarize, inshallah ta'ala, in there. And we'll share it later on with the recording of this as well. All right. So inshallah, we'll stop with this for any questions, answers on this topic or other than that. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.